Welcome to They Live by Film, a film discussion podcast focusing on the Criterion Channel and beyond. My name is Adam Lundy, and I am joined as always by my co-hosts Chris Haskell and Zach Bryant. How are you doing today, guys? Are you in the Christmas spirit?
Not even a little bit.
Says the guy who was working in retail up until recently.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
That will kill it. That will kill it real fast. Listening to Mariah Carey on repeat 75 times a day.
See, now I get to ruin other people's Christmases for a living. It's not mine. It's like revenge for all those years.
I think we talked about it before. We're a very Christmas household. Surprisingly, haven't seen a lot of Christmas movies though. Like we've had that one. I don't know if y'all would have a reason to watch the Christmas Chronicles on Netflix. The one with Kurt Russell.
That's the one. I've seen the first one. I watched the first one. It was actually pretty good. I watched the first. Yeah. This is like when it came out like 2 years ago. I watched it and it was pretty good. Haven't seen the sequel.
Yeah, well, we've seen both of them several times. And they're not bad. It's fun to see Kurt Russell, hamming it up. And then have you all seen that movie Claws, the Netflix animated special Claws?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I know this sounds weird. Watch it. That movie is awesome. They've captured all the kind of like mystique of a holiday film from the 90s. And they've made a great movie. It's kind of like an origin story for Santa Claus in a weird way. It's really good.
I'm not really a Christmas movie kind of guy, but I promised my fiance that we'll watch a couple. We have some friends coming over for a few drinks later, but tomorrow we're both off work. She's still. I've been off in the last couple of days, but she's off from tomorrow. So promised her we'll watch a few Christmas movies. So I'll put that one on the list. Along with It's a Wonderful Life. She has somehow never seen It's a Wonderful Life, so that kind of has to happen.
You have to watch it once, but I think I've only ever watched it once.
Yeah, I've seen it at least a couple of times. It's just one of those films that come on. It's always on TV and stuff. So even if you haven't sat down and watched it yourself, you've seen it in passing.
Everybody knows everything about A Wonderful Life.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like knowing the plot of A Christmas Carol. You know it.
Yeah, exactly. So this episode, as you might guess from the title and the description, is not a usual episode. We're not going to be talking about our film club films this week. We are going to do a bumper sort of wrap-up episode of 2021. We're going through a few different categories, essentially just talking about some of our favorite films that we've seen this year, highlighting ones we've talked about on the podcast and also ones that we haven't been actually dissecting. Just a nice wrap-up from us three, just to sort of see what we liked and what we didn't like. We're going to start off just by essentially just talking about our 5 favorite films that we've seen this year. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a top 5, just 5 of our favorite films that we want to highlight. So we're going to go down in ranking order from 5 to 1, but if you guys are like me, which I'd say you probably are, these are probably all pretty interchangeable the whole way down anyway. So yeah, I think we're just going to go through like 5 and then 4 and 3 as the 3 of us anyway. So does anyone want to kick off for their number 5? Anyone want to jump in?
Well, I'm happy to. These are not ranked necessarily, but earlier in the year I did my Fellini kind of run like through his filmography. So I thought I would include at least one of his movies. The one that caught me probably by the most surprise that I had not seen before was The Ship Sails On. Do y'all remember when I was talking about that very much?
I think.
Yeah.
I definitely remember you mentioning it.
It's the closest to a Wes Anderson movie that is in Fellini's catalog. And it's just this cool, simple story told in a very artful way, very stylized way, with that kind of same kind of dark humor that Wes Anderson has, and some surreal images that I love. Like there's a scene in the end where there's a rhino in a boat with a guy because they have to escape the ship, and it's set to kind of like a painted background on fake water, and the whole thing just looks really cool and like surreal, and I love it. So that's my number 5.
Nice. What about you, Zach?
For my number 5, I will pick. Well, I actually had two that you had recommended me, Adam, and I just decided to just pick one of them.
Okay.
And the one I didn't go with was The Virgin Spring, which was like my second Bergman I'd ever seen. It was great, loved it. But I decided to go for my number 5 was The City of the Dead, which
yeah.
I had never even really heard of. I'd heard of The Virgin Spring and just never got around to it. But The City of the Dead was one that there's something about when a movie just kind of catches you off guard or you don't expect it that just makes it just that little bit better. I love like the whole atmosphere of the thing, and honestly, I would probably put it as an October watch going forward. It has a lot of atmosphere to it. It's a lot of fun. It looks gorgeous. Like, I can't imagine the movie's expensive, but it looks really good. And Arrow has a pretty nice release for it, so that would probably be my number 5.
Yeah, I appreciate you telling me about the Arrow releases. I had seen it on Shudder. I just came across it when I was looking. I've been subscribed to Shudder for about a year and never actually really used it. So I was like just looking through their catalog and I saw, oh, Christopher Lee, this looks hammy and fun. But it was awesome, and I appreciate you showing me there was an Arrow release, and I bought that as well. So I'll definitely be rewatching it. It's a pretty awesome little film.
I think it was in a trilogy, because I don't think they did like the limited edition. I think it came with that and not Carnival Blood. It has the word blood in it, and it takes place in a carnival. I'm sure Chris would know it, but I cannot think of what it is. It's an old cheap horror film.
You're not talking about Malatesta's Carnival of Blood?
That's it.
Okay.
Of course he knew.
I knew Chris would know it because I was like, I know. I watched the movie. I couldn't. I think it was in their American horror volume 1 set. I think that's where it's.
Very cool. My number 5, I'm only going to be doing films that I watched for the first time in 2021. I don't know if you guys are doing the same.
That's what I'm doing.
I'm not going to put rewatches in because I probably all be rewatches. But my number 5 is a film that I talked about many times on the podcast, saying, "Oh, I should really watch this," and you guys have been like, "Have you not seen this? You got to watch it." And it's PTA's There Will Be Blood.
Yes.
I've heard about this film for so long, and I knew it was going to be amazing, just purely based on the praise it gets. And I finally watched it about 2 or 3 weeks ago when I had a few days off and I was out sick. And yeah, it lived up to the hype. The film is incredible. It's shot amazingly. It's like the best Kubrick film that Kubrick never made. Daniel Day-Lewis is incredible. Just the whole film is awesome. Paul Dano is awesome. Everything about that film was great. It's a 10 out of 10 film. Can't believe it took me so long to watch it.
And that's one thing I worried about, because you bring up watching it. I'd always try to push you to watch it. It's like, I don't want to like hype it to a point that it could never reach, because I was like, God, I'd hate for you to watch and be like, it was all right.
No, it lived up to any bit of hype. Like even without you maybe pushing for it, the film is just so hyped in general. So yeah, I'm glad I finally watched it. It'll be one that I revisit a lot as well, I'm sure.
And then Johnny Greenwood score's great.
Oh yeah, well of course Johnny Greenwood. As you guys know, I'm a big Radiohead fan, so anything he touches turns to gold. This is not the first Johnny Greenwood scored film we will talk about.
Oh, I didn't figure it would
in this
be.
podcast. In the top 5, yes, but in the podcast, no. Number 4, I might as well just hop in. Then we might as well just go in the same order, reverse. So my number 4 is another hugely influential and beloved film that I had just never gotten around to watching, which is Apocalypse Now from Francis Ford Coppola. Stunning film, absolute masterpiece. I wish I didn't watch the version with the French family because it's just fucking stupid and it kills the film. But even with that, knowing that doesn't exist in the theatrical version, I can ignore it. It's just an insanely well-made film. The production values are nuts. The action sequences are insane. Martin Sheen is incredible. Marlon Brando is incredible. The whole film is just a knockout.
Sorry.
I
was just going to say, I remember it'd been years since I'd seen it when I watched it a couple years ago. And I watched the documentary first, which is Heart of Darkness. I don't know if you've watched that yet, but definitely watch it. And you go through this thing and you're just hearing how difficult Marlon Brando is to work with. And you're like, God, why did Francis Ford Coppola put up with him twice? Not just once, but twice.
Yeah.
And then you watch the film, you're like, oh, that's right. That's why.
Yeah. He's just one of those people that you kind of put up with it just to be able to work with him because he's that good.
Yeah.
because he's only in
That's-
like 15 minutes of the movie. I mean, he's not in a lot.
Yeah, and most of that is just him hiding in the shadows to hide the fact that he's massively overweight.
And didn't read the book.
Yeah.
Not that they're the same at all, but I just want to make sure. Since you love that movie so much, have y'all both seen The Deer Hunter?
Yes.
I haven't. No.
Okay.
I've seen painfully little Coppola films. I've seen the first Godfather and now Apocalypse Now, and that's it.
That's actually Michael Camino. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. My apologies.
No,
Yeah.
you're good. You're good. I can see why they'd be confused, honestly.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
not necessarily couple wise, just tone wise, I guess. They made some dark movies in that era. Like The Deer
welcome
Hunter's
to
really.
Vietnam.
That's true. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then that one's nerve wracking. I don't know if you know much about it, Adam. But
I know about
it's
the
a lot
scene.
of Russian roulette, and it is
Yeah, I know about the Russian
nerve-wracking
roulette.
experience.
Yeah. I think you can't avoid the Russian roulette because it's literally it's on every fucking poster and
Mhm.
cover art for the film. It's, guy holding a gun to his head. So I don't think you can really avoid that. But that's pretty much all I know about the film. It's in Vietnam. They play Russian roulette a lot. I know nothing else about the film.
I don't know if you could. Shout's actually got a 4K release of it that looks really good.
Okay, I'll have to take a look and see.
Yeah, if you're interested in watching, that's one I have.
Yeah, that's one. I mean, there's this whole debate about like, is 4K necessary for all movies or whatever. Not to get into that, but that's one where 4K would probably help a lot because there's a lot of dark rooms.
Well, and it depends on the film. Like, when I rewatched Apocalypse Now on the 4K, I was like, this almost looks modern. Like, just how Coppola was 70s. Coppola was definitely his height, and it just looks like it could be made today, especially with the 4K. And you're like, this just looks good.
That's cool.
The worry I have with 4K is losing the grain.
If they choose to take the grain out, it's awful.
Yeah, that's the only thing I worry about with remasters and 4K in general. Just because the grain makes the film for me, it just gives it that feel. So I would worry about that, but I'm yet to come across that, so it's not a big deal. But I would
don't get the Terminator 2 4K.
Right? Okay, they just ruined it. Okay.
They
sorry
if you as much as it could go.
Sorry if you happen to have made that film and you happen to be listening to us. We're not shitting on your work, I'm sure.
Not at all.
What's your number 4 then, Zach?
I'm gonna go with I've got to get Nick Cage in here at least once. I finally watched Bringing Out the Dead. Been a Scorsese fan forever. I love a lot of his movies, but I'd never seen it honestly because it never had a Blu-ray release, so I never bothered to buy it or anything else. And it was his last film of the 20th century, which had honestly been a really great run for him in general, where he had Goodfellas, Casino. Jesus, I know there's more. I mean, I think almost everything he did in the 90s was nominated for an award except for Bringing Out the Dead, which ended up being really great. Like, the thing I like about Scorsese is how he uses, how he changes New York to depend on, because almost fucking everything he makes is in New York, but how he changes it to fit the film. And it feels like the whole movie has this really hellish, nightmarish thing going on. And I worked a third shift job, so I understand the idea of burnout is at nighttime is awful, and I think it captures that perfectly.
Yeah, that movie's awesome.
It's cool. I haven't seen it. I know it's one of the ones that are sort of pushed for Criterion to release a version of it. That's usually when you see people's wish lists for Criterion releases. I know it's usually pretty high up there.
It would be mine. Yeah, I think it would be good for them to do. It's. I think it might be the only Scorsese film that doesn't have a Blu-ray release. Boxcar Bertha has a Blu-ray release.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of an oversight of it is, because I've heard good things about it, not just from you, but from other people as well. So maybe it's just one of those things that is waiting for rights to expire. So if nobody else is interested in putting out a Blu-ray, I'm sure some boutique company, whether it be Criterion or otherwise, would only jump on it.
Yeah.
What you got, Chris?
So I think I'll go with Judex. So 1916, this guy named, and I don't mind pronouncing foreign names, but this name is especially hard. Louis Feuillade. I'll just go with that. It's Feuillade. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Louis Feuillade. And he sits down with a team of writers and they create 12 serials. So 20 to 30-minute, basically episodes of this superhero called Judex, which goes on to kind of inspire the Shadow, I believe, which then inspires Batman. So he's not wearing like a bat costume, but it's basically this story of this sort of wealthy vigilante that is taking justice into his own hands. And it's this just amazing serial. Like it's cool to think back in 1916 and 17, there was 12 of these just kind of coming into theaters briefly, and people were going to watch this story unfold. And as it goes on, like you kind of understand, you get to see basically the Judex character sort of when he's in his prime and seeking justice, and then over the course of the serials, you get to understand his motivation, and you meet more of his family, and there's like a whole arc, and it's done very well. It sort of is. It's kind of set the template for a lot of superhero movies and generally just kind of like origin stories, I guess. So I think it's something that if someone's interested in getting into silent film, it's very digestible. It just like some of them are as short as 12 minutes, some of them are as long as 30. And it's a great piece. Flicker Alley put out the DVD of it. I don't think there's a Blu-ray, but they very lovingly restored it, so it looks great.
Did you watch the? I don't know if it's a remake or it's just an inspired homage, but the Criterion Channel has a '63 movie called that as well.
Yeah, it's from George Franju, the guy who made Eyes Without a Face.
Oh, it is. Oh, that is. I knew his name looked familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, when I put the review for Judex on our site, I used the 1963 photo by mistake. I haven't seen it yet, though.
Sounds like you did a pretty good job if you were able to like confuse them, if you got that element right.
I don't know if you saw, I had meant when I put up the release list for Criterion Channel in January, I had mentioned you in a comment, but with time differences, I don't know if you always see them. But there's another serial sort of similar that's coming out from like a similar era called Les Vampires. That's coming out in January, Chris.
Yeah, I saw that was coming out.
You know what? I don't know if I saw that comment. I'm sorry, but that's awesome. That's coming on the channel?
Coming on the channel next month, yeah. It's another serial sort of from that era from France. So seems to be like sort of a similar kind of idea. Seems to be more about like a crime syndicate and this guy kind of trying to hunt down this crime syndicate. But yeah, if you like Judex, seems like it'll be up your alley. So
and it says the girl who played in Judex, Musidora. That's the actress's name, but apparently she's in it as well.
Oh, there you go.
Well, I guess I'll have to get Musidora run. No, thanks for the tip. That's really cool. I'll definitely watch that. So number 3 for me, if we're going kind of reversies here. Yeah. We did a Jia Zhangqi. We saw a few of his films this year. And I had seen, I can't remember if this was part of our discussion or if this was, oh no, it was. I think it was Platform, which was his second film. And I think as much as I love Zhao Wu, I think I might have even liked Platform more. It was just a little bit of a bigger world. You get to see more of the kind of disaffected youth and a little bit more insight into maybe the tension between the parents, the adults, and the kids there. I loved it. It was, I could have put it anywhere in the top 5. It's a wonderful movie. I think it's a little bit more entertaining than Zhao Wu in terms of like pace and kind of what's happening on screen. So it's really, really good.
Zhangke is kind of weird. I've seen 2 of his films this year, obviously both for the film club, and I love Zhao Wu, and I'll talk about it later. And then I really did not care at all for Unknown Pleasures. So if Platform is kind of closer to Unknown Pleasures, I don't think that would be my cup of tea.
No, it's not. It's like, it's almost like the difference between Alien and Aliens or something, you know, where like,
okay.
Alien is like this kind of contained film with a few characters, and then they really like expand the world for Aliens. So cool. I'll leave it at that. I don't know if that's the best analogy.
Yeah, like I'm definitely willing to give him more. I have an Arrow Academy release with like 3 of his films on it as well. So I want to give him, you know, as much as I love Zhao Wu, I want to give him more of a chance based on that rather than basing it purely on my coldness for unknown pleasures. So I'll put that
Yeah.
one on the watch list.
Cool. What about you, Zach?
For my number 3, I'm going to go with Stage Fright Aquarius, which I'm sure has an Italian name I won't be able to say. Love slashers. I think anyone on here knows I'm a big lover of that. And I'm trying to think of the director's name. I can't think of it right off. It's been months since I've watched this, but he was a little bit more into a lot of the like Italian horror. He started with like The Church and stuff like that. I believe it's the same guy. Sounds familiar. But it's just a really fun movie. It came kind of right at the end of the big slasher craze. It was like right at the end of the 80s. And it's one of the more unique ones. Like it takes a lot of the tropes and it takes a lot of things from Giallo, but it really just has fun with it. You know, it has your typical escaped mental patient goes and tries to kill a bunch of people who happen to be working in a hoodoo place. So the whole thing is like he's wearing a costume that's a big part of the play and everything else. So there's a lot of confusion. It's just a lot of fun. Like the kills are fun and violent. It's really engaging. The characters are a little archetype, but I wouldn't say to the point of like Friday the 13th where they're unlikable. They're still likable characters, but they're just they're not going to be anything complex, but still fun.
Yeah, you're right. He did The Church afterwards. I just have his IMDb page up. It's Michael Soavi.
That's it. Yep.
And then he did that Della Morte Dell'Amore too, which is great.
I've
Have you
heard
ever seen
that's
that?
good. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's good.
Yeah, I
That's
need
the
to
one with
more.
Richard E. Grant, is it? Or am I mixing that up?
Yeah, I'm not great with. Let's see. No, not as a main actor, anyways.
Who's the main character in that again?
Rupert Everett.
Rupert Everett. That's I mixed it up. Yeah, I knew it was someone up again with Orr, who was English. So
Okay.
my mind went to Richard E. Grant, but yeah.
Nice.
So my number 3, I will be continuing the trend of universally beloved films that I have been too lazy to watch, with Chinatown by a pedophile. Really good film, amazing setup. Jack Nicholson kicks ass. I just love how it's such a hazy film in terms of plot. It's like there's like a trend in film the last sort of 10 years that people are calling stoner noir, where the main character is not really knowing what's going on. They're just kind of along the ride of the mystery. And Chinatown kind of feels like that, like an early version of that, or like something that inspired it, because it's quite clearly a film noir. It is as film, like, it has all the tropes there that you need, but it's just kind of a bit hazy in terms of like, what's happening with the mystery and everything like that. It's kind of like what's that film by that director who made that film I don't like, Images. Who made Images again? Robert Altman.
Robert Altman.
What's that Altman noir with the guy from with The Long Goodbye? I was going to say with Monica's dad from Friends. Yes, Elliot Gould. The Long Goodbye. It's kind of like The Long Goodbye, it's just kind of like hazy, and the main character is kind of along for the ride, it's that kind of style in noir. But yeah, Chinatown, it looks incredible as well. Don't get me wrong. It's not when I say hazy, I don't mean sort of lazily made or anything like that. The film is meticulous, but yeah, I love Chinatown. When I watched it on the channel earlier this year, and again, another universally beloved film that absolutely lived up to the hype. So that's always nice.
I don't think I've ever asked. Do you have like a preference? I know most noirs are in black and white, but do you tend to stay away from color noir, or do you kind of like both?
No, I have no problem with neo noir. My favorite film of all time can probably be called a neo noir with Vertigo. So yeah, no, it doesn't bother me. Sometimes black and white can be a little bit cooler with the shadow play and stuff, but yeah, I've no problem with neo noirs either. So I definitely don't have a preference.
I'm actually surprised. There's been a kind of especially with like action and mystery movies and stuff. I noticed there's been a lot of going back to like neon and stuff. I'm almost surprised that noir hasn't done. I guess the closest you can come up with is like 2049 is sort of that way, like a little neon noir sort of idea. But I'm surprised there's actually not a little bit more of that, since there's a lot more of that color play going on now.
Yeah, I think it's something that will probably come in. I suppose like maybe something like Drive, might classify as that,
Yeah.
as a kind of neon neo noir. Yeah, I think it's a bit more niche than it probably should be. Like a lot of the kind of noir-ish films that you see now, so something like Inherent Vice or Under the Silver Lake or Brick, they kind of more go for that sort of stonery vibe rather than
Hmm.
that sort of clean neon stylish vibe that kind of Drive goes for. Yeah, maybe a filmmaker will get on that. I'd say Edgar Wright could probably do something with that if he wanted to. Um, yeah.
Well, I was
Uh,
we've been rewatching the John Wick films last couple of nights because the expectation was that movie was supposed to come out in like 3 months, but never mind. And it kind of does that with the way it uses its like colors and shadow and stuff like that. It's heavily dosed in like color. I've noticed this time watching through. And I was like, huh. I mean, it's not noir because there's no mystery element to John Wick except for like the world building itself. But I was like, I'm surprised there's not more films that kind of play with that a little bit more. At least not mainstream ones.
Yeah. And I haven't even seen a single John Wick film.
Ah, you should. They're so much fun.
Yeah, I've heard they're fun. I just it's never really lined up for me or anything like that.
But all right, I'll take on for number two, and I've actually talked about this one before, so I won't harp on it too much. Is The Witch Who Came from the Sea? I watched it earlier this year, and
Hmm.
I still haven't bought it. I need to actually buy that one because Arrow put that one out as well. I think it's actually in that same set, if I'm not
I think it is,
misremembering.
yeah, and that American horror set, yeah.
um, and it's just it's a really kind of bleakish movie, but I don't know. There's just something about it that's very alluring. It's hypnotic in a weird way. Like the main actress, name I wish I could remember off, but she does such a great job in it, where she plays this really unhinged type character, but in a very believable way. Like you can see why people don't really suspect a whole lot. Like she just feels like, oh, she's just a little off, and but besides that, she's fine. But it's a lot more than that for her. And I like how it plays with the idea of if she's really a witch or if she's not. It's a cool
yeah,
little movie. I just really enjoy it.
Millie Perkins.
That's her name. Yep.
There's something about her. She was married to somebody really big in Hollywood.
Her
Oh, sorry.
performance reminds me of the girl who played in Possession a lot.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, it reminds
totally.
me a lot of that.
Totally. Um,
Dean Stockwell she was married to.
yeah, Dean Stockwell.
Yeah, Dean Stockwell she was married to.
Oh, okay. Maybe not. I mean, he's relatively big, I guess. Um, somebody else. Anyways, yeah. But she's great in that. I agree. That's a cool choice. I must have been Adam. Did you do your number two?
I didn't, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got mixed
No,
up. You go ahead and do your number two.
you're all good. No, I was gonna circle back after Chris did his anyways. It's all good. My number I'm gonna move away from Hollywood now. My number two is a film that will probably surprise you that it's here when I tell you how long it is. Let me see.
Tango.
Saint,
This
I was
film
about to say Saint Tango.
it's not Saint Tango. No, no. Look, Saint Tango, it was good, but Jesus Christ, never again. This film is just shy of 4 hours long. It's 3 hours 57 minutes, and it is Edward Yang's A Brighter Summer Day.
Oh yeah.
Insane film. Like it doesn't feel like 4 hours. I watched it specifically because I was off like work that week, and I said I'm gonna get through all the long films that I don't have time to watch on a normal work week. So I sat down in the morning and I watched it. And luckily there's like a nice sort of time where you can take a break and to have some lunch and stuff and come back to it. There's not specific chapters, it's not like in parts or anything like that, but there's a particular moment in the film that I won't discuss for spoilers reasons that when it happens you kind of go, okay, I can take a break now. But yeah, it's an incredible film. It's so well directed. It looks phenomenal. I had never seen. Oh no, I'm lying. I had seen an Edward. Am I lying again? Who made Taipei Story?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Okay, cool. I thought I was gonna mix them up with Tsai Liang Miang, that other guy, that other Taiwanese director. But yeah, Taipei Story. I'd seen that one, and then this is obviously his like most well regarded film, along with Yi Yi, which I'll probably get to sometime next year. But yeah, it's an incredible film. If you find yourself with 4 spare hours, it doesn't feel like 4 hours. It's not really slow or anything like that. There's a lot of plot that keeps things moving. There's it's not like a Satin Tango where you watch a 20-minute scene of cows moving from one field to another, which is genuinely the opening 20 minutes of Satin Tango is just following some cows as they move through a village. Brighter Summer Day is not like that. There's so much plot. A lot goes on in that film. It feels like an old epic, like that kind of Lawrence of Arabia or Gone with the Wind, those long epics that weren't boring because so much was happening. It's kind of like that, there's so much happening with the characters and everything like that. That's why it doesn't feel as long as it did. So yeah, Brighter Summer Day is that's my number 2.
Honestly, you sold me a bit on that because honestly, I've seen the Criterion cover and it didn't really like speak to me at all. So I was like, I'm not gonna watch 4 hours of this, but I can get behind something like that.
No, it's cool, and it has like it's essentially like a crime story. So it's not even like there's a coming of age aspect to it, of course, as the main character is like a young teenager. But essentially it's like a crime story that's sort of set in the backdrop of Taiwan after sort of it's tried to split away from China. So yeah, it's a really great film, and you won't get bored watching it. I can assure you of that much.
So number 2, speaking of movies that I was like a little bit reluctant to get into, I've had this Female Prisoner series up on my shelf for a while from Arrow.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just have never been crazy for like women in prison movies, like just for the sake of watching them. I know there's some good ones, but there's not like I don't have a huge draw to just like see it just because that's the genre. But I finally saw the first one. It's called Female Prisoner 701 Scorpion. This movie is amazing. Like it's an art house film. Forget about the fact it's an exploitation movie. Forget about the fact it's a woman in prison film. Like this director went full art, and he created this crazy, like kind of like almost French New Wave style, but I don't even know what it is. Like it's a very unique piece. He uses colors. Actually, it's not French New Wave. I don't know what it is. It's very like kind of theatrical and almost like operatic at times, the way he uses colors. And he'll like if there's like memories or flashbacks or different, he wants to go to like a different point in time, he'll just sort of almost like put the actors on a stage and use like beautiful colored scarves and like paintings and stuff. It's so creative. I want to do everything I can to get people to see this movie. It's a tight 90. It's not a hard watch, and it's just so entertaining. So there's kind of like 4 of them sort of in the main. I mean, the series goes on after that, but the director's around for 3 of them, and then the main actress is around for 4 of them. And so that's kind of like the first 4 in the series. And the first 2 of them are I've never seen anything like it before, especially from a genre film. So imaginative. I really think that like if anybody's like only into pretentious movies, as people in our group talk about them, and want to like dip their toes into genre films, like this is 100% where I would put them as the first step. It's so well done.
I will second that because Chris here was very nice and bought me a set he should have not bought me, but I'm so glad he did. It's a beautiful Arrow set. But I've only seen the first 2. I haven't got to see all 4 yet. But especially the first one is just so good. And I like the second one. Not as much, but I really did enjoy it. Especially the one thing I will say about the second one is it's got the best looking, and Chris, I know you'll know what I'm talking about. The leaves scene, the leaves falling scene. Yeah, that part's gorgeous. It's honestly breathtaking how good it looks.
Right.
You guys have sold me on it. You guys have sold me on it because I had seen the box set from Arrow and I thought this doesn't really appeal to me. Women in prison movies, not really. Yeah, don't really care.
Yeah.
But no, they sound awesome now.
Have you seen Lady Snowblood, Adam?
No, I haven't. It's been on my watch list forever, but I of course not watched it.
You'll be
I think.
addicted to her stuff after you watch one of them, so it's pretty easy. It's the same actress, so
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely need to. Oh, so these are like a Japanese series, is it? I literally I saw the title of the set and I thought, meh, not for
yeah,
me.
it's kind of a confusing title to talk about because I don't even know what female prisoner 701 Scorpion, I think is the name,
Yeah,
right?
that's it, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah,
It
that
doesn't
doesn't
roll
sound.
off the tongue.
No, it's like doesn't really sound like my cup of tea here. So I did not even look into it any further than that.
Not to be creepy, but Maiko Kaji has just like an arresting presence on screen. Like she's a very beautiful woman, but she also just has like this commanding presence. And
She
in this
does.
movie, she plays almost like a she becomes like more and more mythical as the series goes on, and she talks less and less. So her role is very similar to like the Man with No Name kind of trilogy.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and it's weird because her career, I guess, was about a decade. I mean, she's played in stuff now, but like when you talk about her, it's
mhm.
mostly that decade between the 60s and 70s where she
Yeah,
just killed it.
Nice. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
pick this
yeah.
up, I
She was
think.
making like 12 films a year for a while.
Hmm.
Um, anyways, so yeah, go watch that. That's a great movie. And then I guess I'll just to go reverses here last time. Number one for me, I would have put Wages of Fear from H.G. Clouseau in number one, but I've seen it before. I just happened to see it again recently. And that movie is, oh my goodness. I could talk about that one for a whole nother podcast. I won't though. So what I did is I put Diabolique because I saw that for the first time. Diabolique was one that I was like moderately interested in. I think based on the cover art, I thought it would be okay. I wasn't quite sure how the story would go. Um, the two female lead performances in that are so strong. The plot it continues to kind of twist all the way until the end. Uh, Clouseau's somebody that is right up there next to Hitchcock for me now as somebody who can build suspense better than anybody else. His movies are just they grip you like, or they gripped me completely. I was like just glued to the screen. So that's my number one of the year.
Yeah, Diabolique is awesome. It's such a great film. I unfortunately went into it knowing the ending, or at least knowing the main most important part of the ending, that scene, as it was ruined for me by one of those TV shows that are like the 100 scariest moments and stuff. So one of
Okay.
those kind of TV shows was ruined on me for many years, but I still enjoyed it. So if you managed to go in blind, then I'm sure it must have blew your mind.
Yeah, exactly. It did.
It's one I'm
What
going
do
to
you say?
rewatch. Actually, I think it's on the channel. I think I considered
I
putting it
think it
on my
is, yeah.
list recently because,
I think so.
uh, yeah, I think it's such a good movie. I haven't seen it in a long time though.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years for me too, but it's a really well made film, and Clouseau's a good director, of course, as well. I think some people call it like the sort of one of the best Hitchcock films Hitchcock never made. Those kind of
Yeah.
that and Charade by Stanley Donen are normally the two that people sort of point to as like great Hitchcock
Well,
movies that Hitchcock never made.
Poor
Uh,
Brian
well,
Shaw. He doesn't get put on the list.
that's because he's too much of a simp. The other
He
the other
tries too
two,
hard to be Hitchcock.
yeah, the other two are just nice and casual about it. What's your number one then, Zach?
My number one is I would say this would probably end up being the most surprising one I watched this year, and I actually bought it from Scream Factory on a whim. I think somebody in the group recommended it to me. I want to say they did, but I can't swear to that. Which is the oh god, Jacques. Who did Cat People? Somebody say that last name.
Jacques Tournier.
Thank you, Tournier. He did a movie called The Leopard Man, which it's a pretty basic story. A leopard escapes. People start dying, but it's not exactly what it seems. It ended up being, in a lot of ways, a very early sort of slasher film in a lot of ways, or maybe even a giallo because of the whodunit element. And it's beautifully shot. It really made me want to get into his work because I like Cat People a lot, and I've wanted to watch. I Walk with a Zombie. I'm finding out I'm really into him, and I need to find more of his stuff. But it's a fun little movie that I didn't really expect too much from when I bought it.
Is Cats the sequel to Cat People?
I believe it is. It's just
Okay.
as creepy.
Yeah, I actually watched Leopard Man as well, a couple of months ago, based on your recommendation, and I thought it was really great as well. It was really, really atmospheric. Has a really great scene in the graveyard.
Yes, yes, that's a great one.
Yeah, it's
And I
cool.
like that they call it a leopard, even though it's not a leopard. It's like a
Yeah, it's like a
jaguar.
puma
It's like a
or
panther
something
or a
like that.
jaguar.
Yeah, it's one of those. Have you? Speaking of Terminator, I assume you've seen Night of the Demon.
Yes, I want to rewatch it, but I also love that movie a lot.
Yeah, Indicator have a good release of it if you're looking for a physical.
Okay,
copy.
cool. I will look
Indicator
at
have a
theirs
good
actually
release.
pretty soon. Because
Yeah.
I Walk with a Zombie doesn't have, I don't think has a great release anywhere. Like I think there's some DVD releases, and that's about it.
Yeah, I was looking into that one as well after, because I'd seen people have seen Night of the Demon. Then I saw Leopard Man. I thought I'm gonna watch more of this guy's stuff. But yeah, I Walked with a Zombie. I couldn't really find anywhere that had it or in a good quality or anything like that. So maybe a future Blu-ray for some boutique label. My number one then is a film I watched for the first time from one of my favorite directors, Abbas Kiarostami. It's called Certified Copy. It's a pretty well. I don't want to say new. It came out this century, so it's new by standards of the other films we've been talking about. Really amazing film with Juliette Binoche and a guy whose name I cannot remember because he's not actually an actor. He's an opera singer that just acted in this film. But it's an amazing film. I remember I wrote in my review for it that it's kind of like a weird combination of the Before trilogy and Last Year in Marienbad from Alain Resnais, because it's two people just sort of going around an Italian village, sort of talking, kind of like the Before trilogy, the way they just sort of walk and talk, one of those kind of movies, but it just has this really strange existential twist where they start off strangers and then suddenly they start talking as if they've been married for years, and they talk about having saying that he doesn't take care of their son right, and it just but like there's no there's no hint as to what's actually happening, whether they are actually a couple, whether they're both gone insane, or whether this is all kind of in their heads or whatever. It's a really beguiling film. Beguiling is the only sort of way I could describe this film. It's so strange, but it's so engaging. If you like the Before trilogy and you want maybe a bit of a twist on the genre of the walk and talk romantic-y kind of film, Certified Copy is incredible. And obviously Kiarostami is incredible. So I will always take opportunities to big up Kiarostami, because I still feel outside of art film circles, at least anyway, he's still pretty sort of underrated. So yeah, Certified Copy. If you guys get to watch it. If you're listening on the podcast and you've never seen it, or want to watch it, definitely get on it because it's incredible.
He's Finnish, right?
No, you're thinking of Aki Kaurismäki or Kaurismäki or something. Abbas Kiarostami is Iranian.
Iranian guy. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's very easy to confuse. They have very similar names, so completely understandable. Yeah, Abbas Kiarostami, he was Iranian.
Oh, Taste of Cherry and all that. Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, Taste of Cherry, Close Up, Coker Trilogy, that guy. Love
we
him.
saw Close Up for the film club, right?
We did, yeah. We saw Close Up for the film club. It's a sort of faux documentary.
That was amazing.
Incredibly interesting director. He was always so meta and always went to go against the grain. He'd be probably my third favorite director after Bergman and Hitchcock. So I'll always take an opportunity to big him up, because I still feel like a lot of his stuff is kind of underseen. Cool. So that's our top fives then. So this next segment, we're just going to talk briefly about our favorite 2021 film. So not our favorite film that we've sort of seen in 2021, but the actual a 2021 release, because we don't really talk about new films a lot on this podcast. We end up talking about stuffy old French films from the 60s a lot of the time. So let's talk about something new. Does anyone want to jump on this one first for their favorite 2021 release?
I've only seen 2 this year, so can I go first? Because it's going to be very
Absolutely.
short. So I've seen Bo Burnham's Inside and Shang-Chi.
Okay.
You saw Dune, didn't you?
Hey, you saw Dune, I thought as well.
Oh, I did see Dune. For some reason, that didn't pop up on my letterbox when I was going back. I wonder why. Maybe I didn't register it correctly. Okay, so that does change what I was going to say a little bit. I was going to say I really like Shang-Chi. I probably would choose Bo Burnham's Inside over it just because it's such a unique film and like such a great time capsule of the pandemic. Ooh, Dune does change this though. Oh, that's tough. I know,
I
Adam.
think
I know it's
you will make a lot of people angry if you choose a Marvel movie over Dune. Just be aware of any potential backlash. I back you. I think
Except for
Shang-Chi is
Adam. Adam
better.
will agree with you
Yeah, oh yeah,
100%
I
on that.
fully back you on your decision if you choose Shang-Chi over Dune. But I'm just saying a lot of other people won't back you. So
No, I enjoyed Shang-Chi, especially like the wuxia parts, but I didn't like the villain and I didn't really like the ending a lot. That one falls a little bit for me just because of those.
how do you not like Tony Lung?
Wait, what?
Tony Lung is the villain.
Oh, no, he's fine. I mean the like the dragon, like the beast who's like,
Oh, sorry. Yes. I got you. I got you.
yeah. No, Tony Long's great. But he's like a conflicted villain. He's not like the big evil beast they have to defeat, right?
Yeah. I got you. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, Dune for me is the best movie of 2021. That's I have to go over Bro Burnham's Insight then. Yeah, Dune for me is the winner.
Thank you for your resignation of this podcast. We are a staunch anti-Dune podcast here at They Live by Film.
Yeah, I get to stay.
What about you,
What about
Zach?
you,
What
Zach?
was your favorite 2021?
Um,
You've probably
we
seen
go
the
with
most new films out of all three of us, anyway. So
yeah, I
it's
just
probably
hit
harder for
50, I
you.
believe.
Wow.
50
Okay.
for 2021. Funny enough,
wow.
I haven't seen two of Chris's three. So, but if I went with the one I have seen the most, it would have been Halloween Kills. It's not my favorite, but I did see that movie 5 times. Probably biased. I have a Halloween tattoo, so that's gonna happen every time. Even I would probably have went to see the Rob Zombie remake 5 times in theaters, to be fair, and I just bitched the entire time. But one that really stood out for me, I had a few that I thought was going to go over, but every time I did the re-ranking, it would always end up back in front. At one time, I thought it was going to be Last Night in Soho, which was number one for a little bit, but then when I did my re-ranking, I've got to go with Pig. It's so simple. It's a lot more emotional than I expected, and it's existential, and I guess that's something that probably doesn't come from me a whole lot. But if somebody's going to sell me on like an existential film about being a chef looking for a pig, it's going to be Nick Cage, and he does such a fantastic job. It's he's been kind of going through this whole renaissance thing for a while. He's had 3 movies this year, and this is by far the best one he's done. And it just kind of sums up his career in general. He'll play anything, he'll do it well, but give him the right role and he'll kill it every time. And that was Pig.
Do you think he's our generation's Christopher Lee?
I think in a sense, yeah, because I mean, one thing that I get, annoyed by, and I think a lot of people think my love for Nicolas Cage is very ironic, and it's not. I love him as an actor in general. I think one thing he does so well is I think we have an obsession, especially in modern acting, of naturalistic acting. We need to be as true to life as we can be. And he doesn't believe that. He's made it very obvious he doesn't believe that's true. He thinks performance is an art. And I wish more actors would do that. Like, I think he is, he's a guy who will play in some terrible stuff and he doesn't care, but he gives it his all every time. I've never seen him sleepwalk through a performance.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that. I think people are getting a lot more positive on him. I mean, I actually saw people excited he was going to play Dracula, and I'm excited for that. I think
That's news to me. He's playing Dracula?
Yeah, they're doing a Renfield movie, and he's going to be playing Dracula.
I had heard about the Renfield movie. I just didn't hear about any of the sort of additional casting, but I had heard about the Renfield movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's perfect for that. I really do. I think he has the right type of energy.
I want to suck your blood.
Hey, if he redoes Vampire's Kiss with it, I'll be so excited.
Speaking of Cage, before we move past him, I had only heard of this film as I saw the trailer the other day. I assume you guys are probably aware of the Nicolas Cage film that's coming out where he plays himself.
Yes, the unbearable weight of massive talent.
That I saw the trailer for it the other day, and I was laughing at it. I just thought that was the most ridiculous cagey thing ever. It looks awesome. Like I will definitely be watching that film. It looks really good.
Yeah, and I'm both excited and a little worried about it, just because he's kind of, at least to a degree, gotten himself out of the meme status to a degree where people actually just like him. And I'm like, God, I hope that doesn't like throw him back into like Wicker Man 2006 territory.
Yeah, I think like it seems kind of like one of those Renaissance-y kind of films, where if he puts in a good performance and the film is solid, then I think it will just project him even higher.
Yeah, I think it does have the potential for that for sure.
Yeah.
That self-awareness.
Cages.
He kind of did it on somebody else's script with adaptation, right? So this is better that he's making like a Being John Malkovich type movie now for Nick Cage.
Well, what was funny is I listened to an interview where that's what he said why he took the role is because he likes Being John Malkovich. He's really into that movie, so.
Cool. So my favorite of 2021, the most fun I had watching a 2021 film was the new Spider-Man movie, but it's been talked about to death, so I'm not going to harp on about it, but I had a lot of fun watching it. Spider-Man is my favorite sort of pop culture character ever because I've just been into him since I was a kid, so any new Spider-Man movie I'm going to be really hyped up about. But the best film I saw this year was one I alluded to in the last podcast, and was probably the film I least expected to like this year, and that's Spencer, which I know you've seen since, Zach, and you liked it as well.
I did. I liked it a lot.
As I talked about, I think it was on the last episode or maybe the episode before, like I talked about how I went into this film with zero expectations. I had no interest in watching it. My fiance put it on the TV, and I was only kind of half watching it for the first 15-20 minutes, and it just completely threw me for a loop, utterly engrossed me, could not look away. It's so incredibly well made. I said it in our Discord, I think, but it is as close to The Shining as any biopic about a royal family member is ever going to get. It's so atmospheric. It's so it's eerie. It's creepy. It gets under your skin. And it's just a nightmare, but it's an amazing film. Anyone who's a fan of Kubrick, should just watch this movie because it's just awesome.
And I got to give a lot of praise. And I mean, she's gotten more praise, her and Robert Pattinson have, but Kristen Stewart did so good in that. Like, there's just like, I know a lot of it's the makeup and stuff, but it was that weird in between where it's like I both recognize her and I don't. Like the way her face looked and everything else. I just, I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, and I remember she got like a lot of stick when she was cast in the role, and my fiance was the same because she doesn't look anything like Diana. She's obviously way too young to be playing Diana at this part of Diana's life. Now, it absolutely makes perfect sense now to seeing the film, because it's not like a proper biopic about Diana. It's not like a proper biopic or anything like that. So now it makes sense why they would cast based on talent rather than looks, because she absolutely fucking killed it, and it all really makes sense. No, she's American.
Yeah, she worked like 6 months on that accent apparently, and I think she pulled it off. I mean, better than most Americans pull off a British accent.
For sure.
What? Any idea if Renee Zellweger's accent was good in the Bridget Jones series?
that is honestly really critically acclaimed, her British accent. Okay. To the point where I thought Renee Zellweger was British for most of my life.
Oh, good for her.
So that's honestly like her accent is like one of, like when people talk about Americans doing British accents and like the best ones, she's always like up really high. Like I said, I thought she was British for like most of my life.
One that's always confused me, and I won't get us too off topic here. Guy Ritchie has always praised Robert Downey Jr.'s British accent. and I don't think it's like offensively bad or anything, but I'm not British, so it's just like what I hear. But it's just like I don't think it's like incredibly impressive.
I haven't seen any of those Sherlock movies, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it
One
always still came off as an accent, like not like offensively or stereotypical, but I was like, yeah, it's still someone putting on an accent.
one person
Well,
who's
we have,
impressed. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
oh no, I'm sorry. I was going to say we have so many examples of Robert Downey Jr. not speaking a lot that I feel like it just feels strange to hear him like with that. It feels like an accent, right?
Hmm. That could be part of
Yeah.
it as well.
One person who's impressed me recently, just because of when I learned of where he was from, was Charlie Cox. Because like I saw him in the Daredevil series on Netflix, and I just assumed he was American because why would I assume otherwise? He's playing an American character. I don't know anything about him. Why would I assume he's not American? And then over the summer, there was a series that aired in Ireland called Kin. It was like a crime drama. It starred Aidan Gillen, from Game of Thrones. You'd recognize it to see him. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'll know Aidan Gillen. There's this character anyway, Irish, talking normal Dublin accent, and I thought, geez Louise, this guy looks exactly like Charlie Cox. And then the credits came on, and it was fucking Charlie Cox. And I was like, first off, why is he in this Irish this low budget Irish drama? First off, I was like, okay, well, that's just weird in the first place. And I'm like, shit, his accent is so good. Maybe he's actually Irish. And I looked it up and wait, this dude's fucking English. I thought he was American, and then I thought he was Irish, and it turns out he's fucking English. But yeah, he's really good at accents. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of his stuff now. To be fair, I'm not a super big Charlie Cox fan, but this year alone, he kind of threw me for a loop because I thought he was American, then I thought he was Irish, and then turned out he was English the whole time.
I think when you're doing those low, like not low rent, but when you're doing this, like obviously something like that's not going to be something that's going to be seen as worldwide or anything. I feel like you have to do better because your target audience is going to notice it. And
especially in Ireland, if you do a shit Irish accent, you will know about it.
Especially, I guess, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like that's a lot because you guys are similar to Southern accents. Why they bother me is because they're so stereotyped.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're like, fuck
exactly.
you, dude.
That's like if you came and going, oh, twiddly dee, my name, top the morning to you. If it was one of those, like, we'll just tear you to shreds. It's like fucking, that film P.S. I Love You?
Yeah.
And that dude, what's his fucking name? Garrett. What's his name? From.
Gotta look it up.
Shit.
P.S. I love you.
The guy from 300. What's his name again?
Oh, Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler. His Irish accent is so shit in that film.
Me and my girlfriend have a theory about Gerard Butler. If he does not give a shit about the movie, his accent will switch 3 different times at least.
Yeah, that's probably what happens in PS.
Because if you watch like Geostorm, he goes from Scottish, he's American. I think he does an English accent at some point. I was like, he does not care. He's like, I will put out anything.
Adam, he's actually Irish by birth.
What? He's Scottish.
Gerard is?
Yeah, but he grew up in
I thought he was
Scotland, right?
Scottish.
Yeah, I've always thought maybe he was born here.
Wait, his family is of Irish origin.
Oh yeah, with a surname of Butler, he's definitely of Irish descent. There's no doubt about that anyway. Yeah, no, he was born in Scotland.
But just because we don't have a lot of opportunities to talk about Americans doing accents, what did you think about Brad Pitt in Snatch?
Oh, that's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, it's an interesting accent because he's playing like an Irish traveler, and they have a very distinctive accent a lot of the time. Okay. I have no problems with it. It's a lot better than the one in that IRA film he did, which I can't remember the name of. It's kind of memed in Ireland, to be honest with you. The whole "Do you like dags?" That's kind of like a meme in Ireland. Yeah, it's fine. I think because it's kind of like it's an accent of a sort of very specific cultural or very specific what's the word? Very specific group of people in Ireland, we kind of forgive it a bit. He's not like playing just like a regular Joe kind of character. That makes sense.
Gotcha.
One that's, and we can move on after this, but we were kind of reminded me, we were talking about like people doing accents they should be good at with Gerard Butler. One that frustrates the hell out of me is Sandra Bullock in The Blind Side. She's from Virginia. That accent is awful. It sounds nothing. I was like, I am from the same state. That sounds nothing correct. I was like, and you're from the same state.
Jesus.
That's why I hate that movie. I despise The Blind Side for lots of reasons.
Is that the one about the American footballer or something?
Yeah, about Michael Oher.
Okay.
Who played for the Ravens. Yeah, it's it's a white savior story. Take it for what you will.
Yeah.
Like Dune. Yeah.
Like Dune.
But all right, I guess we should.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Oh, Sandra Bullock would have been great as the lead role in Dune.
Yeah.
I mean,
the same person.
She'd had more personality.
That's true. Anyway, this isn't the Shit on Dune podcast. So speaking of the podcast, we'll move on to just talk about our favorite and our least favorite of all the films we talked about just this year. 2020 films do not count, so I cannot talk about Revengeance, unfortunately. So, just ones we talked about in 2021. I'll hop on it first if you're cool with that. So my favorite, which I'm just going to briefly touch on because it was a rewatch and it's like my second favorite film of all time, Night of the Hunter. I think in terms of like films that we've watched in the film club, I think it's like objectively the best. Even if it might not be your favorite, it's probably objectively the best film that we've watched as part of the film club. So I'm just, Night of the Hunter, like in terms of like my favorite film that we've watched, Night of the Hunter definitely, but because I don't want to really include rewatches in this, I'm going to link back to Jia Zhangke and mention Zhao Wu. I have it ranked number 5 currently on my favorite film club films. And I'm talking about it now because 3 of the top 5 are rewatches, and one of them we watched it in 2020 and didn't talk about it on the podcast. So this is one that we've talked about on the podcast. So Zhao Wu, I loved this when we watched it. It was so naturalistic. It had that beautiful sort of 16 millimeter film grain feel. It had a sort of neo-realist kind of vibe to it, sort of mixed with that kind of Wong Kar-wai obsession with media idea as well. So it just hit all the right beats for me. I was engrossed by it. Thought the main character was really interesting. It was a great character study, to sort of follow this kind of complex but stupid character. He's kind of like stupidly complex or complexly stupid. Zhao Wu, that's definitely my favorite one that we watched or talked about on the film club. And my least favorite, kind of by default, because I can't talk about Revengeance, so I literally just went on what I had ranked second last, and that's Fantastic Planet. And I feel like I'm super harsh on Fantastic Planet because the animation is super interesting. I just don't give a shit about the film at all,
Yeah.
Like I even have it ranked below Images because, like, at least with Images I can kind of like find and pick apart reasons why I hate it, whereas Fantastic Planet is I just don't like it. I don't care about it. I could never watch it again, and I'll never be affected by that decision. Fantastic Planet, I just didn't really give a shit about.
Let's see. Your best was which one again? Make sure I remember.
So I'll say Zhao Wu because Night of the Hunter, like I said, it's a rewatch. So Zhao Wu will be I'll put that down as my favorite.
I'll take it next. I decided not to do anything I've already rewatched, which wasn't a lot, but I didn't put any rewatches. And part of what helped me choose, like, it's not necessarily what I've ranked, but it's the ones where I also thought we had like the best discussion on. I think that made a huge difference for me. So my favorite was Woman in the Dunes. One I really didn't have a lot of expectations going into, and that's kind of a theme with me. If I don't expect much and I end up liking it, I usually tend to like it a little bit more than I probably normally would. But I just think it's a really interesting movie. It has its light moments. It gets really dark and bleak when towards the end, and I just think I don't know if there's anything quite like it. Apparently, one of the movies I got recently from Criterion is, but we'll see. I haven't watched it yet. But which one? Let me see. I can't say any of the names.
I'm just curious to see if I've seen it.
I think
can
you're the
tell you.
one we may have just talked about where it was. You said it was one of these. It was either
Oh,
or this
yeah.
one.
Anibaba. Anibaba is great. Well, they're both great. Kuroneko and Anibaba are both great. But yeah, Anibaba kind of has a kind of vibe like that because it's sort of set in rural Japan and just sort of that idea that you're sort of like they're not sort of trapped in a pit, but there's that kind of overbearing feeling of claustrophobia because the whole film is set in amongst these really high grass reeds. Anibaba kind of has that vibe.
Yeah, I blind bought both of those, and I think that may have.
They're both great. You'll like
Yeah.
both of them. You will like both of those films. They're very different. Kuroneko is definitely more of like a classic ghost story, but I think you'll like both of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get around to those soon, but it's also one of those movies that's kind of inexplicable to me because I'm not really sure if it's my normal type of thing with Woman in the Dunes, but I just ended up really liking it a lot. I need to buy the Criterion edition. And on the other end, this one will be very short and for a good reason. So the one I put last is one, and I think the worst thing you can be as a movie is boring. And it hasn't even been that long since we watched it, but I remember nothing about it. And that is To Be or Not to Be. I remember
shit, that is a hot take
from that movie. I sat there and I read the synopsis, like I've watched it, but I don't remember it. I don't remember our discussion or anything about it. And I'm just like, it's got to be last because it made no impression on me. And it hasn't even been that long.
I was full on ready for you to say Fat Girl. That is a...
I didn't know if... Actually, I don't think I chose that one because I couldn't decide if it was this year or not.
See, I literally went back and looked at the dates our podcasts came out to try and find the cutoff point. Fat Girl was definitely this year.
Was it? Because I know it was like episode 6, and I was like, I don't know how many episodes we got to last year, so I was like, I'm not gonna put that one. And I went through I went through the rest, and I was like, I barely remember this movie, and it's only been like 2 months since we've watched it.
And that's like one of Chris's favorite movies.
I know.
Right?
Too. I was like, it did not. I couldn't remember the movie. I was
that's
like, I guess
shit
it's gonna
hot
be this
take.
one.
Wow, that's nice. I'm glad we got a hot take here. Because normally we're kind of talking about stuff we've already talked about in terms of films we don't like. So yeah, that's a fucking hot take right there.
Well, of all the things to say about To Not To Be, the fact that you found it boring makes me so sad.
We should also highlight that
I remember one scene, and it's Hitler in Poland at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. I can't think of another scene in the movie.
I feel at this point it's important to offer the disclaimer that Zach generally does not like comedy anyway. So
yeah, that's true. That might be.
No, it's so true. Well, let me change my favorite movie that we've discussed really quick. No, just like you, Adam, I had To Be or Not to Be as my favorite, but I'm not going to talk. I'd seen it, I don't know, 10 times before, so I'm not going to. I think at the end of the day, was Panic this year or last year?
It was this year.
Yeah, it would have been this year.
I'm going to go with Panic because I remember watching it and I just don't know visually if I've ever seen anything quite like that. It's like this, it's just, I love it. I think I described it at the time as like, it seems like they just built miniatures, but really big. Like it has a feeling that everything was built as like a miniature, but just on a large scale. And the whole town is just like has this uncanny valley kind of feel to it's where it's like close to reality, but not quite reality. I loved it. And the story is relatively simple, but I just think it's such a fun movie to talk about. And it's one that like, as the world opens back up and I have real friends again, I'm going to try to show people that movie more just to show like how much creativity is in film. I just love talking about that.
Yeah, I
that
remember
was
the set
one
design.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Adam, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the set design. I think the only other film I can kind of put close to it in that kind of vibe is the apartment complex in Rear Window. Kind of gives off the same feeling. Yeah, that's kind of a middle of the road film for me. It was good. I liked it, but I don't rave about it. But maybe I just need to rewatch it.
It's one for me that I remember liking it when we watched it, and it's weirdly stuck with me. Like, it's not one I expected to stick with me, but every once in a while, like a part of it I'll be remembered of, especially towards the end of the movie. I remember liking a lot. It's one I'll probably need to revisit at some point because I didn't think a whole lot of it at the time, but it's made some sort of impression.
Flickr Alley put out a Duvivier box set just now. It came out in December, and there's like 12 of his early movies. So it kind of got me on this rabbit hole for Duvivier. He was instrumental in getting the Cinémathèque Française off the ground, which is a big thing for kind of restoration, and it's a big archive in France. He's just an interesting guy, and I think this is a cool film. So
I'm trying to think of the other film I've seen by him, because I saw another film from him before I saw Panique.
I was just thinking about that. There's one that's more well known. Hold on.
It's the one that had the guy from the Grand Illusion in it, whose name I've completely blanked on.
Can they give me an English title so I can pronounce it?
Hold on a second.
Carnet de Ball? Maybe?
No.
There's another one that people always talk about. There was a few.
Pepe Le Moko.
Pepe Le Moko. There it is. Yep,
that's Pepe Le Moko. That's the one. They always talk about it in French New Wave films, especially in Godard films. They always talk about going to see Pepe Le Moko or trying to act like Pepe Le Moko. Yeah, and your man Jean Gabin was the guy who was
there you go.
From the Grand Illusion. Yeah, that's a good film. If you get to see that one, I recommend it. It was definitely on the channel because I can't think of any other way I would have seen it. Whether it's still on the channel now, I'm not sure, but I recommend that. That was fun.
Yeah, as soon as you talk about Panique, people are like, "Oh, you've seen Pepe Le Moko, right?" Like it's one of those ones that everyone kind of. I think it's more of their intro to Duvivier somehow. But my least favorite, I kind of went back and forth on this. I landed on Palm Beach Story just because, like, fuck those guys. I don't care about, like, they're all a bunch of assholes, and like I didn't care about the romance story, and they're all like mean spirited, and yeah, whatever. I didn't care for it.
Yeah, I didn't care for that one either. I just thought it was boring, and the ending is kind of stupid. So
I'm still a little mad that I went to go. I think I was getting dinner out or something during the opening credits, and that's why I was completely blindsided by the end of that movie because it made no sense. I was like, I didn't think I had to watch this part. I could go get dinner while it was going on.
Yeah.
I was watching the opening credits and I still didn't get it. Adam pointed it. It's kind of the way it's done. It's just more confusing than anything else because you're just sort of like, wait, why are these same people like in and out of wedding clothes the whole time? This is weird.
Yeah.
And the movie starts.
Yeah, Palm Beach Story. I think it's just one of those ones that it had a lot of potential, and I don't know. I
remember some of the jokes landing pretty decently. They just didn't like.
I can't even remember a single gag from the whole film.
I can't remember one now. Which is sad because I can still remember Duck Soup better, and I didn't particularly like that one.
Yeah, I think I may be feeling about Palm Beach Story the way you felt about To Be or Not to Be, Zach, where I just remember very little of, like, pretty much every, like, the only thing I really remember is the stuff that went on the train. But every time I think of that, I just think of how much better Something Like It Hot did the train stuff. Similar gags. So yeah,
bunch of rich assholes. But the best part of Palm Beach Story is probably the Wiener Man, right?
I forgot about. Oh yeah, I forgot about it.
I don't even remember who that is. The Wiener Man.
He's like that old guy that like got wealthy off of selling wieners.
Oh whatever. Yes. The old tycoon.
Yeah,
I do remember him now.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's it for you. You've introduced all the segments. You want to go on to the next one? I hope this is a fun one for me.
Yeah, well, it's the last one we're going to talk about. It wouldn't be an episode of They Live by Film if we didn't talk about the shit we spend our money on. So it's going to go through our favorite sort of boutique releases, probably for most of us. We're going to talk about a few. Well, look, Chris, you go first for this one. Collection Corner has always been your baby, so it'd be only fair for you to go first.
Okay, I have 120 to talk about.
Okay, buckle up.
Let me make a call. I got to cancel everything real quick.
This is so the cool thing. I'm just going to say this, and I'm joking. I only have 2 to talk about. This year for me has been so exciting as a collector because I'm feeling like the mid 2000s again, where like every time you turn around, there's this beautiful box set coming out, and like genre films are getting beautiful releases, but now the studios are feeling like they have to compete. So like The Godfather 4K is probably going to be beautiful when it comes out. It just feels like people are kind of getting back into physical media. The streaming sites are all getting kind of weird with licensing, which everybody said was going to happen, and it is happening now. So I think people are feeling like streaming is not quite as reliable as it was promised. So I think there's going to be an uptick in the physical media, probably never to the level it was at, but I don't think people are giving up on it, and that makes me very excited. Zach, I have to tell you, because I know sometimes you buy imports. Do you know about Orbit DVD?
What's it called?
Orbit, Orbit.
You did message me about that. Is it like Diabolic, or is it different?
Kind of. So it's a physical video store. So it's more like Grindhouse, I guess, than anything.
Okay.
But they have a whole import section, and their website is updated in real time, and it's just an easier buying experience for Region B. They have everything that you kind of like want from Region B, and they have this thing that says email me when available. And I did it for the Mulholland Drive set, and I got the email, and I went and I bought a copy for myself as well, and it's like it was flawless. So it's a great website, and I think in 2022, you're going to hear a lot more about them, especially for import stuff, because they take care of all the shipping for you.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and this will definitely be helpful.
So my favorite pickups, I have to mention Shaw Brothers, because I bought that day one back in August, and I finally got it from Arrow. I haven't gone through the set yet. I mean, I opened it up and flipped through it, but I'm going to be watching those movies next year. Shaw Brothers, I was actually going to try to get a theme song to introduce my pick. I forgot. That theme song is just ingrained in my head. I love those movies, and I love that they're getting the good treatment from Arrow and 88 Films, and maybe even 101 is doing some of them. But there's just Shaw Brothers is getting some good attention, which makes me really happy. And then the only other one I have to mention is, because I cannot believe it got the treatment it did, was Riki-Oh. So Riki-Oh, Story of Ricky is probably my single individual choice, and then Shaw Brothers is box set.
I need to pick up the Riki-Oh one, because I haven't seen that movie in quite a while, and I'm surprised how many people in our little Discord chat have not seen it.
I'm not.
like I guess it's where me and you were more in the genre stuff. That's like one, like when you really get into the genre stuff, you're like, yeah, I gotta watch Riki-Oh, and you just kind of early on. But
watch out next year too, because now the Ebola syndrome came out. And so I think next year I'm going to predict is going to be the year of Cat 3 films. I think everybody's going to be talking about Cat 3, because Riki-Oh and Ebola syndrome now have releases, and I think there's going to be a flood of Cat 3 stuff coming out next year. So that's my prediction for next year.
And good luck to the friends of our podcast, Error 4444, because they're probably going to be doing quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Zach? What are your favorite pickups?
Well, Adam got to show his off, so I need to show off what Chris did for me, because this is a fantastic Arrow set for Female Prisoner, Scorpion, the complete collection. It's Arrow. Everything they do, especially their limited edition stuff, is absolutely so well done. It has great cover art on it, because I think they did the special edition one. This is the limited edition, where it has, I think, this cover on it, which is for
Jailhouse. The current edition has that cover, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really great looking. I don't know. I think more purple needs to be used, because it sticks out really well on the shelf. The other one I will highlight a bit, I actually just got it fairly recently. It's Second Sight's The Guest. This is the second thing from Second Sight. This is actually the first time I've ever got to order from their website, because Dawn of the Dead was blocked by the guy who owns the Rysal Romero's stuff in the U.S. So you couldn't even buy Dawn of the Dead from Second Sight directly. Had to buy it from Savi. But this is first ordered from him, and he just does such great work. Like, it's gorgeous how much work he puts into these things. Fantastic movie to boot. This is in 4K finally. So really appreciate, like, everything is designed well, and feels well put together, like it's not going to fall apart on me. But those would probably be my two for the year.
Second set are awesome. The work that he puts in, like I have a couple of releases, and like the Walkabout one is insane. The amount of sort of like the fact that it includes the original novella that's based on it, includes the script. You know, it's a really amazing set. Hopefully he'll become a friend of our podcast next year. We'll try and.
That's the hope. I'd love to talk to him because he.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Chris. You know, he's just one guy, isn't it? Like really.
Yeah, that's what when we spoke to James White from Arrow earlier in the year, he had mentioned that it's just one dude behind Second Sight, which is incredible in itself. You know, that he can put together such like some of the most complete limited edition sets available on the market.
Yeah, it's almost like there's this idea that you should only have to buy this one more time. Like I shouldn't have to worry about ever buying the Guest again.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I hope I never do.
It's as good as it could ever really be in terms of a complete set. I'll probably pick up. Obviously, they announced he's going to be doing Drive. I'll probably pick that up, even though
I can own it again.
Yeah, you know, I've just, you know, I don't love Drive as much as I did when I was 18, but you know, it's one of those. I'm sure the set is going to be really, really good looking. So,
well, I'm in a Steelbook Discord where, and I swear to God, every other month Drive has a new release. I'm like, how many times are you guys going to buy this movie? I would have once. That was enough.
Yeah. For me, then I'm just going to highlight two. So one that came out this year, and then one that I bought this year that came out previously. So the one that actually came out this year is the limited edition version of Johnny Guitar from Eureka. I'm just gonna big up my Region B bros at Eureka, who are I adore Eureka. They're an incredible company. They put out some really, really great stuff. They're kind of going a little bit more genre in the last 6 months or so. I've noticed they're putting out a lot of kung fu movies and stuff like that. Which is interesting because obviously they've mainly sort of been known as kind of like the Region B's answer to Criterion before Criterion started releasing Region B stuff. But yeah, big up to Eureka. They put out an incredible set of Johnny Guitar, beautiful yellow artwork. It's as bold as the colors in the film itself. Really nice, sort of really thick, cardboard box, not like the sort of Criterion slips, which can be a little bit flimsy. It's like proper sort of thick. Never need to worry about this tearing or anything like that. Has some nice little sort of art cards, a nice essay that comes with it. And then the film itself just looks absolutely stunning in its restoration. Johnny Guitar has been a film I've wanted to watch for years and years and years. Ever since I got into Godard, I've wanted to watch Johnny Guitar because kind of like Pepe Le Moko, they talk about Johnny Guitar a lot in Godard films. And he himself has said that, cinema is Nicholas Ray. So I've always kind of been interested in Nicholas Ray. But yeah, Johnny Guitar, that pickup from Eureka, I really recommend that. I don't know if the limited edition is still available, but knowing Eureka, they always put out a standard edition kind of about 6 months later. So if you don't get the limited, I'm sure the standard will be just as cool. And then the set that didn't come out this year that I got this year is my holy grail of boutique releases. And that is the Ingmar Bergman Cinema set from Criterion, which just blew my mind, exceeded all expectations. It's just this huge fucking it is like a suitcase. I didn't know it was going to be that big, but it's just insane. Even just the book that comes with it is just nuts, full of really insightful essays, beautifully printed. The set itself is set out like a big Bible almost, to sort of put it in Bergman terms with its sort of religious themes. It is essentially like a Bible, the way it's sort of, each disc is sort of put out on each page. So yeah, that's been my holy grail for a few years. I've been desperate for that set, and I got it earlier this year. And yeah, it's absolutely it's incredible. I would be pushed to say it is the best boutique Blu-ray release in general. It's just the peak of boutique releasing.
I need to watch more Bergman stuff so I can justify myself to get it.
Well, look, they're all the ones that are in the set are on the channel and in their restorations that are in the set. So That's what I did. I just watched a ton of shit on the channel, and then once I knew that I loved it, I was like, I have to buy this.
Because
Once I'd
right now
seen
I'm at
enough.
Wild Strawberries, which we watched on for here. Virgin Spring and Hour of the Wolf.
Yeah, and they're really not bad starting places. If I were you, I would go with Through a Glass Darkly next.
Okay.
That's the one I
I
would
know
go
a lot
for
of people say
next.
Seventh Seal. I haven't watched it yet, and I know BFI is about to put out a 4K.
Yeah, it's out already actually. Seven Seal is really good. It's kind of different. Well, I say that it's closer to the Virgin Spring than any of his other films. I feel like Seven Seal you can kind of watch anytime. It was actually my first Bergman. Um, but I feel like Seven Seal, because it's kind of different in terms of, it takes place in the past and stuff.
Mhm.
I feel like you can kind of watch that anytime. So Seven Seal is good. Whether you watch it now or watch it later, I don't think it matters. But I think Through a Glass Darkly is a kind of good film to watch early because it kind of encapsulates a lot of his themes. It's the sort of start of his chamber piece era that he called, just kind of films that could be plays, but they're films, that kind of era that he got into in the 60s and stuff. It's weird, but not like as weird as Persona, not even as weird as Hour of the Wolf or anything like that, but it's weird. And it kind of has that really great atmosphere. So I think Through a Glass Darkly would be a nice sort of further step. But if you were to watch the Seventh Seal in between, it wouldn't hinder your viewing
Okay,
of
yeah.
Bergman.
He's just got so many films, and I'm like, I don't know where to go. He also, I noticed, seems to do a lot of different genres. So I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah, he does. I think his comedies are sort of less beloved. Now saying that, I haven't seen Sawdust and Tinsel, which I think out of all his kind of more comedic films, that's definitely the most revered, and I haven't seen that one. But like, I think he just has a distinct style that, regardless of what he's kind of working in or what setting he's working in, you can just tell it's a Bergman film, even from the black and white titles. Once they come up, the black and white titles is the same font every time. You just kind of know what you're watching.
Okay.
Zach, did you see? Have you seen a lot of Woody Allen movies?
I was just
I've seen
about to
quite a
say it's
few,
like a
yeah.
Woody Allen. It's really like Woody Allen.
Yeah.
You're watching a Woody Allen movie, and he loves Bergman.
Yeah.
He's gone on record to say Bergman's his favorite director. So
Yeah, I've seen Manhattan. I've seen Annie Hall. I feel like there's another one I've seen, but I can't think of it.
He goes across genre, but like it's always a Woody Allen movie, right?
Right.
And-
Yeah.
and Woody Allen stole the black and white titles that he doesn't. He stole that from Bergman as well. So
Yeah.
at the start of every Woody Allen film, it's the same black and white titles, and that's because he
Yeah.
got that from Bergman.
Steal from the best is what they say, right?
Yeah, and he actually got to work with Sven Nykvist as well. Woody Allen did, I think, on a couple of films. September, I think Interiors. I think Sven Nykvist was on that one as well. But there was a while in the 70s and the 80s that Woody Allen stopped making like out and out comedies and started making more family dramas. He stopped starring in them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird comparison to make on paper between Woody Allen and Bergman, but the sentiment in terms of like, you're watching a Woody Allen movie kind of goes with you're watching a Bergman movie, regardless of the setting that's happening.
Okay.
Ingmar Bergman's Bananas. So before we wrap up, can I tease next year a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just so excited. So I think 2022, just like boutique Blu-rays and sort of physical media is on the way up. Our podcast is on the way up. So we're going to start between January and February next year. We're going to have interviews coming out with the George Eastman Archive, which, if you don't know much about that, I would strongly recommend spending 5 minutes researching what that is. They have a lot of Warner Brothers catalog in their archive. And generally in the US, it's considered, them and MoMA in New York are considered like some of the best film archives. So I'm so excited about that. We have an interview that we're scheduling with Indicator. And we have an interview we're scheduling with Mondo Macabro. So they've all agreed to be on, and it's just a matter of scheduling in the new year. So It's for those who are less familiar with Mondo Macabro, they've been around for as long as Flicker Alley. They've been around 20 years, maybe more. And for kind of Euro sleaze and heavy genre films, they are the Criterion. They put extreme tender loving care into every release, and the guys who runs it is like an encyclopedia of film. So I can't wait for that interview as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Indicator one, so I can just tell them how much their box sets are like heroin.
So you see if they'll start sending us like review copies. Adam will be all for the review copies.
Yeah. we'll have to try our luck.
We'll play every film with an A+.
Yeah, we'll do that. And look, listeners, if I've sort of harped on about it in a few episodes, I didn't really talk about it recently, but obviously the Patreon is there if you want to help support us, keep the podcast going. A couple of tiers available. The link's in the description. You get unedited versions of these podcasts on one tier. We do have a monthly newsletter that we're starting to do and put a lot of work into the reviews and stuff on that. So if you want to get on, sort of support us and chat to us as well, you can comment and stuff like that on the post. We'd love to sort of hear more from you, the listeners, because we feel like there's a bit of a blockade there. We'd love to know what you guys think of the interviews, what you want us to do more of, what you want us to do less of. Yeah. The reviews are obviously going to be coming as well. The film club is still going strong. Will we give a hint about what we might be talking about on the next podcast?
We got a few choices, don't we?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to choose 2 out of maybe 3 or perhaps even 4. I think we're probably definitely we're going to talk about Bacurau, which was a big sort of sleeper hit of the last kind of 2 years after it's been going out through various streaming services, through Mubi in 2019, then Criterion Channel got it in 2020. Mubi had it in Region B anyway, which was funny when I saw Criterion say they had the worldwide streaming premiere of it, and I'm like, you lying bastards, that was on Mubi in the UK 6 months ago. But I thought that was funny when I saw it. So definitely Bacurau, probably one more. So that's a little hint towards what we're going to be talking about in the first podcast of 2022.
We could talk about some Bob Clark.
Possibly. We'll see. I think we'll have a few to choose from. Maybe a Bob Clark. Maybe we'll go to Italy. We'll have to figure out which we think we'll get better discussion out of. Listeners, thank you very much for being with us the whole way through 2021. It's been a tough year doing this podcast. It's definitely kept me sane. I don't know if I can say the same for Chris and Zach. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and have a safe Christmas and a happy new year, and we'll see you in 2022.